Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 p.m. on the East Coast, 6:30 p.m. on the West Coast. Time for your weekly Calamity James Limes. Well, they can't all be
That's good enough.
winners.
That's good enough.
They
And you know
can't
what?
all be winners.
What a what a great way to start off the new year with our stream. I mean, and this is I have it's this is my fault because we kind of delayed our stream last week. So I think Eric, you're out of practice a little
But
bit.
yeah, I feel like exactly. You use
I
it or you lose it.
Yeah, you got the message across. I think everybody knows it's our live stream where we do our weekly check-in and say hello to our ones to tens of people.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can see me yawning. In
Yeah,
Georgia, it dropped from 65 degrees to 35 degrees in a matter of like 6 hours.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, whew, man, it threw me for a loop, something fierce. So,
I had never realized I could be anywhere in the world where it would drop that quickly, except for at night. Obviously, I think it can.
yeah,
Because like in the day like that, that's crazy.
yeah, it was unreal. It was just super unreal. I mean, Georgia does tend to have warm snaps in the middle of December, but this was something else. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, and
Um,
just one day, right? You know,
yeah,
just happening again anytime soon. I'm
yeah,
hoping because that could wreck a lot of people's immune systems. I would imagine. I mean,
ugh,
I'm pretty sensitive to that stuff myself. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, at least judging by the way that the pandemic is wiping through Georgia right now, I mean, every man, woman, and child is going to get it by the end of January. It seems like.
is it that bad over there?
There's not a lot of hospitalizations or deaths or anything like that. It's all of that is staying really low,
Uh-huh.
but the people who are getting it, in the 2 years before this, I knew maybe one or two people who actually caught it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you would hear stories of friends who caught it,
Mhm.
but I didn't really meet most. I didn't know a lot of people that caught it in the last 2 years, and then all of a sudden, from the end of November to now, the beginning of January, I know like easily 12 people who have caught it,
Wow.
and these aren't people who are casual about it or blowing it off. I mean, they're vaccinated, they wear masks and all that kind of stuff, and they're still getting it, right?
Mm.
So yeah, it's crazy. So I've been kind of a hermit the last couple of weeks, if you want to know the truth. I mean, I can do it easily enough because I work from home, but I mean,
Mhm.
I haven't been to the gym. Really the only people I've been seeing are my girlfriend and her family, and not really
Mhm.
anybody else.
So the
And
usual people in your life, and then you know that they're all kind of pretty much hermity like and vaccinated as well.
yeah.
Huh. Yeah,
So
I
in any
mean,
case, yeah, it's been pretty wild down here.
hmm. I mean, I only just here in California, I just type in once in a while. I'll type in California COVID in a Google search, and I noticed that we did have a spike the past week or so um, with cases, but I don't. Other than that, I don't know anything else that's going on. I mean, I'm kind of still in hermit mode myself. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a dog eat dog for tests out there right now.
Yeah, I heard
They,
that is across the country is.
yeah, they can't keep rapid tests in stock. Um, and like there's a testing place 2 minutes from where I live, one of those free testing places.
Mhm.
I will never go there because the wait is, well, judging by the line of cars, I suspect that if you come in at the end of the line during the busy session, the wait's probably about 4 hours. But
Yeah.
but I was talking to a lady who got there an hour before they opened and still waited 2 hours to get her test.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So that means
insane.
that she was sitting in line for 3 hours to get a test that takes approximately 15 seconds to do.
That's a whole Lord of the Rings movie right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Um, it's unacceptable. I don't understand why why this is the case. I mean, this is basically the only country where this is a problem.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating to me that people who are trying to be responsible are losing the better part of a day
Hmm.
just to be responsible. I mean, that's just unacceptable to me. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit angry right now that
Sure.
um, that we're still on year three of this, and we
Uh-huh.
still haven't figured out how to manage this. It's just
Yeah.
it's infuriating. Um, but
It's one thing. I mean, I I understand the need to get a rapid test, but it feels like uh, it's like I don't want to diminish the need to get a rapid test, but so yes, we are now in year three, and to me, rapid test was not part of the normal conversation because I guess we couldn't get it before, right? When it first started, nobody knew what to do. Like other countries would have it, but then like about year two, I'm making the assumption that we could get rapid tests, but now it's like the rage to get a rapid test.
Well,
It's really a most important thing. Like I don't understand where that need came from because the previous 2 years nobody was even standing in line for that. They just wanted a shot, you
well,
know.
the thing was, like in the first 2 years, there were no rapid tests basically allowed. I mean, there was
Mm-hmm.
like one manufacturer
Mm-hmm.
that did rapid tests because the FDA is dragging their feet. They still have only approved one or two brands of rapid tests in this country, whereas in Europe and most of the world, there's like 15, 20 different brands of rapid tests you can take, and you
Uh-huh.
can go to like your local Tesco and just pick up a rapid test for $2, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can buy as many as you want. They're plentiful. Whereas here, there's like one brand, maybe two,
Mm-hmm.
and because there's so few of them, they're going for like $15 to $30 a pop.
Mm-hmm.
And but that 4 hour wait at that testing facility was for PCR tests. That wasn't even for a rapid test.
Okay.
And I think people want rapid tests now because, well, it's faster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a PCR test, you have to wait at least 24 hours, and that's when it's not hammered, right? That testing place right now, it's so hammered they can't even guarantee results in 48 hours.
Yeah.
And given how fast the Omicron variant spreads, 48 hours is too late at that point. You're already infectious. So there's really no point in getting a test.
Yeah, and that was going to lead me up to my next question: is why are tests that important? Because you can get tested, and as soon as you drive off, you stop at 7-Eleven. For all you know, you got it again. You got it.
It made
Like,
more sense in the earlier variants where it would take 2 to 3
yeah,
days for you to be infectious.
yeah,
But the
yeah,
Omicron variant is infectious in 1 to 2 days.
yeah. It's insane. So
Right.
the point of like the best thing you can, it feels like, is to get boosted,
Yeah.
and
Right. Which, yeah, exactly.
then
But I
hopefully,
think that that's driving the rapid test demand is because people know, well, PCR isn't really cutting it anymore because
maybe.
I can't get the results fast enough because there's not enough testing facilities and the wait is like 4 hours long, which is backing up the results time, yada, yada, yada. And so they
Mhm.
want to get a rapid test because those still qualify for most things.
Yeah.
Um, and you really need a rapid test for this new variant because it moves so fast.
Mhm.
So it is an unfortunate reality that we're living in, and I wish it weren't so. But man, alive,
Yeah.
year three.
Well, speaking of, well, to go to a lighter note, I guess we could.
Yeah, we should. Wow, this got heavy real fast.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's okay. It's okay. It's part of life. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, I mean it is a reality we're living in.
yeah.
So
But the purpose of our stream is to do not so serious stuff, which is making a cartoon and talking about other stuff. And I have plenty to talk about that's lighter
well,
in nature.
let's
But
do
you
it.
can add to that all you want, Eric. I'll give you plenty of material to work with there.
All right. Well, let's take a look at some of the stuff that you're working on then.
So I am going to pick up where I left off 2 weeks ago with Sally and kind of keep working on the mouth packs and maybe one of the pose. And then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Share my screen. That's my start card. That's the art we use to make our YouTube channel. Okay, cool. So a brief recap. At where we left off is I was making Sally's mouth pack, and it's well underway. I mean, I've got a lot of the poses pretty much done. So I'll wrap that up, and then I might do like a pose of here you go here, a pose of her on 3/4 view like
Mm-hmm.
this,
Mm-hmm.
and then do mouth packs like that as well. But we'll see if I can get there.
Okay, that
Now,
sounds good.
as far as lighter note stuff, so over the weekend, me and I did. Well, okay, well, let's let's leave and rewind further back. You are you are anti comic movies these days, right?
If it has DC or Marvel in the name or the distribution or production or whatever, yes, I am
What is it?
out.
What happened to where you don't like Marvel? Well, okay, let's go with just Marvel for now.
Hmm.
What happened that you don't like Marvel movies anymore? Because you went up to Endgame. Were you just over it? Were you tired of it?
Yeah,
What happened?
I was tired of it. I mean, after a point, all of the movies. Honestly, I can't tell you
Was it
like
continue?
it's like all of them started running together.
Uh huh.
They have the exact same plot. The villains are always the same, just mirrors of the protagonist, right? Incredibly unoriginal and boring after a while. Um, the witty quips are stale and frankly being reused in a lot of instances.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the fact that I have to watch nearly, you know, 15 years of movies to understand the plot line of a single movie now. I mean, one of the big jokes on the internet was, cool, let's watch Spider-Man 3, but before that, let's watch Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, and then Spider-Man 1 and 2, and then Spider-Man 1, 2, and now we can watch Spider-Man 3. Like, it's
Yeah.
the only way that you can actually understand that movie, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you came into this without knowing that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire had played Spider-Man before, all of that it loses all of its weight. It loses all of its stakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's the reason I don't really like Marvel movies anymore, or the same reason why I stopped reading comic books. Um, the the legacy, the canon, it gets so convoluted, so complicated, and so just up its own behind that it's impossible to follow unless you read everything, every book, every monthly serial, plus all the specials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it's it becomes sort of this self perpetuating marketing tool. Um, like especially with the comic books. I mean, the comic books, there's no artistic value in the comic books anymore. They're just used as marketing tools to push the movies. And then the
Yeah.
movies are a marketing tool to push the brand, which is Disney, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any artistry in it. I just feel like the creators are sleepwalking through all of these. It's just like Pixar, right? They have a checklist now that they, as long as they hit all of the boxes on the checklist, then they know that the movie is going to do X number of dollars at the box office, and then that's all that they care about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that these filmmakers should be altruists and donate all of their money to charity, but by the same token, like any artistry, any sense of spark of inspiration, creativity, or newness, quite frankly, is completely evaporated from these franchises. And while it is cool that this new Spider-Man movie, I mean, if you're a fan and you've seen all of these things, it is cool that they did this massive fan service crossover thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? The plot, I guarantee you, is the exact same plot as the last 10 Marvel movies. From frame one to frame last, you can guarantee that the plot will not deviate one iota from every other Marvel movie that's been made in the last 5 years.
So, what's the general plot do you see in all these Marvel movies that you?
Well, you introduce the character or you get caught up on the character, right? Um, you know, and they're usually living some sort of mundane existence, or they're in hiding, or they're in semi-retirement, or something along those lines. Then you have the inciting incident, which is usually caused by the bad guy. Then there is the inevitable track the bad guy, follow the bad guy, conflict with the bad guy, false failure, recovery, and then ultimate victory over the bad guy, and then status quo is returned. Right? It is it is as by the book a story format that you can possibly get. Like you've got the quips, which are sometimes they're self-referential, sometimes they're fourth wall breaking, sometimes they're referencing popular culture, but it's always within a bracketed list of acceptable topics that Disney will let you talk about, right? Um, the characters just really aren't that interesting anymore. They're just different variations on the same theme. I don't really understand. I mean, I haven't seen Shang-Chi, so maybe they do something incredibly original that I'm not seeing, but I doubt it. I mean, he's largely indistinguishable from for me between Doctor Strange and Iron Man. He uses magic and he shoots beams from his hands, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, he's really good at martial arts. Oh, okay, cool. So is Black Widows. Like, so is Captain America. Quite frankly, so it's just like, okay, your hero can fight. Yeah, I mean that's just kind of a given. I don't really care about that. We're assuming that your hero is going to be able to fight and hold his own in a battle.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't know. It just there's no originality to it. I'm not against superheroes. The new Michelle Yeoh superhero movie that's coming out that A24 is doing, Everything Everywhere All the Time, looks really incredible, and I'm really looking forward to it. Right,
I've
and
not seen the trailer to that one, but cool. You say A24. That's is that an offshoot of Annapurna Pictures, something like that? Another.
I think well, Annapurna is a game development studio, I thought, or a game
Okay.
publisher. I think it's an offshoot of like Focus, or I don't remember, but
Mm.
it's one of the newer independent production houses.
Um. Yeah. I mean, well, back to Spider-Man because I know you talked about Shang-Chi, but this one I wanted to kind of talk more, mainly about Spider-Man because Shang-Chi's too far back in the rearview mirror for me to
Mm,
have any recent memory to kind of speak to it as much. I like Shang. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but
I think it's Shang Chi, but I mean I'm not
Shang-Chi,
100%.
I liked it. I thought it was nice. But I do kind of follow the same. I do subscribe to the same opinion. I thought there wasn't anything really as special about it, but it was a typical what I would now call at this point because Marvel slash DC. I mean, Disney has built up enough of a library of movies where you can say this is a typical superhero Marvel movie
Hmm.
for that one. Um, for the Spider-Man No Way Home, I think is the title.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we Ethan and I went and watched that over the weekend, and I have to say I enjoyed it. Now, um, yes, it is a fan service to the previous installments of the franchise, but I think what I liked about it uh, the most was I think the performances, especially with Willem Dafoe, and I'm trying to avoid any spoilers, but I mean we kind of sort of
Oh,
talked.
yeah, sure, sure.
But Willem Dafoe's to me it's worth the price of admission to see him as Green
Hmm.
Goblin again. I was this is how it's funny because I remember watching the first Spider-Man and he had the Power Rangers mask on and the suit on. And I remember people were saying, and I don't know whether the director Joe, whatever his name is, that directed this one, if he caught on to this, but people were complaining about Willem Dafoe's a great actor. Why would you cover his face with a plastic piece of plastic and not see him and not see him emote? And this film, for for any the one reason to go see the movie is for him.
Hmm.
Um, and we all know, and again, if you go back to the 70s and 80s version of Spider-Man, who was the dominant villain back then, it was Green Goblin. And Willem Dafoe's performance and the artistry that he does with this, it was creepy. There were moments where I went, wow, this is exactly how I want to see Green Goblin. And that was worth the price of admission for me as a fan, and as a fan of the original of the old comic books. I mean, Sam Raimi was right to cast him back then, but he was wrong to put the mask over him. In this one, minor spoiler, Willem Dafoe gets rid of the mask, and you get to see him act. And that acting, I'm telling you, Eric, it's worth it for that. Everything else, there's a lot of issues that you could have. Like, I don't know if it follows the Marvel trope that the the through line that you see through a lot of the Marvel movies is not the case with this one. No matter what, you have to set up a hero. You have to do. There's a lot of things that are just tried and true with any superhero saga, and that's probably going to be the same with this one. It doesn't really follow a lot of the same patterns you're talking about in this one, but there are elements that are there. The main villain, in a strange way, is Peter Parker himself, on accident or on accident
Yeah, yeah, they show that in the trailer.
yeah.
So, yeah.
It makes it more interesting for this one. I don't know if I'd consider this the strongest Marvel movie I've seen or anything like that. I don't know what I have to think about it for a little bit as to which one would I consider the best Marvel movie of all time. But this is right up there, and Yeah, I would have to say between this and Spider-Man 2, it's probably right there after Spider-Man 2 with Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, and obviously in the trailers you see him come back in this one, so you get to see another great actor do his rendition of Doc Ock again. So there's enough there to for me to say, I know you're anti corporate movie, but if you want to see good acting, Willem Dafoe,
Yeah, I
I am
mean,
saying it's worth the price of admission for him.
my
His
my attitude is Willem Dafoe in anything is great. Like he was great
Yes,
in John
yes,
Wick, right? I mean,
absolutely, absolutely.
so
And then you get out from Molina as well.
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's hard to say. We're talking about there's corporate stuff. They wash away stuff, but there's still artistry. So in this part, I don't know if I completely just I agree with you on this because you get to see the artistry of these two great actors
hmm
do what they do best as the villain of the like they were. I think you and I could both agree. Doc Ock and Alfred Molina is the best casting for a villain of all time,
oh yeah, for sure.
and
No,
Willem
Alfred
Dafoe as
Molina was
well.
phenomenal as Doctor Octopus. Yeah,
Well, if you enjoyed his performance as Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, and you liked Willem Dafoe, and again, arguably one of the greatest castings for a villain again of all time, and his oh my gosh, Eric, his voice as Green Goblin when he, if you remember in the first one, he on the second one, I guess you get to hear his going back and forth that the different personalities, right? Just like
hmm
oh my gosh, and it's creepy. I'm telling you, it's creepy in the dark theater, and you're watching it, and you see Willem Dafoe act, you see the face, Eric. I'm telling you, it is worth the price for that for a matinee showing. That's all I'll say though. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but it is it. I think you'd be. I don't think you'd feel like. I don't think you'd feel ripped off if you went and saw those. If you went and saw it for those performances for acting. Terrific, terrific work for both of them. So I commend the movie. I think it's a must for Marvel fans and whatever. If you haven't seen it yet, go see it. Try to avoid any more spoilers that way. If you see it now, I will say, and yeah, just see it as a matinee. I mean, there's not going to be as many people that way to deal with, and if you want to avoid
yeah,
COVID,
yeah.
we did, and we pretty much had our row we had to ourselves. We're in the back row. It was awesome. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about it for a little bit because yeah, I hear you on a lot of those things, and I'm jaded too. I haven't watched a lot of the Marvel content unless it's just we have nothing else to watch. Maybe we'll watch something, but I haven't even watched Hawkeye yet. For example, on Disney Plus. I mean, we have Disney Plus to watch some other stuff, and I don't know when we'll get around to watching Hawkeye. I don't know if we will because I don't really care about Hawkeye. I loved him in the comic books, and I don't really care for the actors, the version of Hawkeye that's in the MCU as much. I think he's kind of boring. But yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got to say about that, Eric, on that one.
You're the number of people who have tried to go get me to watch No Way Home,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not quiet. I don't shy away from the fact that I don't like
Yeah,
the I'm over sort of modern corporate superhero movies, but and so all of my friends who saw it, they're like they love it and like no you should, this one's different. You should go see this one. You should go see this one. I don't know. So maybe I will. I guess my larger problem is I don't particularly like fan service,
mm-hmm.
and I don't like Spider-Man. Quite frankly,
Yeah. No, it's crazy that you don't. I love Spider Man. I love the
yeah,
Spider. His little corner of the Marvel universe. All the characters that kind of come from it. I enjoy Venom. I don't like the movie version of Venom, but I liked Venom when he came out. But man, the whole Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, his stable of of villains, they rival Batman to me. But they're not as dark as Batman. But if I was to think about a stable of villains, Spider Man's right there with Batman. To me, interesting characters, Sandman, Electro, all those guys, Scorpion, Rhino. Some of them are kind of one notes, but Green Goblin's definitely not. Um, he's got a special place in my fanboy heart for villainy for Spider-Man for doing so much craziness in the history that he's got. And yeah, William Dafoe does not disappoint, and Alfred Molina does not disappoint, and it does, yeah, and it does play on a lot of tropes. If you read the Spider-Man comic books and you remember how they would, they encapsulate a lot in a couple of hours to do fan service, and for me as a fanboy, I was happy with it. walking away out of the theater like, yeah,
And exactly, and like the fanboy thing is a problem for me. I when I saw that they even parodied the Spider-Man animated Spider-Man meme where the 2D Spider-Man are like pointing at each other.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
because
I'm like, yeah, I mean, like that was my problem when I saw that they had done that. I'm like, oh well, I definitely don't want to watch this movie. Like if they're doing self references to that level, like they're referencing a meme that came from a different Spider-Man movie. Like it's too much for me. It's I mean I know it because I still hover around that geek culture, even if I'm sort of orbiting it at a high altitude now,
yeah.
but I'm still there. Um, but even I barely understand it, right?
Yeah, but I don't think you need to, for some of that stuff. I mean, I think there were other hidden jokes in there, like that I didn't catch, and then only read about them later. But there's a lot of great shots in the film that are throwback to the comic books that you don't need to know about to enjoy the shot. For example, that classic shot where Peter Parker throws his mask away and he gives up being Peter Parker and he puts it in the garbage can. And you see
Yeah,
the remember how beautiful of a shot that was composed in comic book form, right?
right.
And in I think Spider-Man 2 or
It
3.
was
I
in
can't,
two. Yeah,
okay, this is 2. Again, the best of all of them. He walks away from the Spider-Man. So here's something funny that I think that, I mean, obviously the director knew this,
yeah,
and there's a throwback because so Green Goblin, so Willem Dafoe's, Harry Osborn has a conversation with himself and he gives up Green Goblin. He's like, I can't be you anymore, and he gets rid of the mask, right? And then he walks down the alley and they do the same type of shot with Green Goblin's broken mask and kind of like this sort of like kind of flipping, and if you're a fan, you understand that shot. But you don't need to understand the story, and it's great for that. It's like
yeah.
some of the fan service stuff is not over your head and obvious, but it's more like, oh, I remember that composition, and that's what I think makes this movie a great one. Right there with number two.
Sure. I guess my you know doing a one-off reference to a very famous comic panel that's like I love 10%er jokes, right? Those are fine, right? I love you know throwing in one or two jokes that um, that only people who are very familiar with a particular topic or have a very strong understanding of words or something like that, right? One or two jokes is always funny. My problem with everything I know about No Way Home is that like the self-reference, the in jokes, the to really fully get all of the things going on, you have to watch all of this other stuff. It's too much, right? It's like they got it backwards. A 10%er joke is a 10%er joke for a reason. It's like 10% of the overall package. It's 90% anybody can watch it and enjoy it. And based on what people have told me about No Way Home, the ratio for me is split is like 60-40 of like in jokes and self references and previous content from previous movies, and then only 40% stuff that everybody will get even if they just come in walking off the street, right? Like, yeah, sure, you can play Last of Us 2 without playing Last of Us, but it really won't make any sense. The story won't make any sense to you, right? And the same applies to this movie, in my opinion, where, sure, you can come into it and go, okay, there are 3 Peter Parkers from other universes, great. But the impact of that, the stakes of that are completely lost if you haven't watched 5 other movies, right? Over the course of like almost 20 years, because didn't Spider-Man 2 come out in like 2002 or something like that?
Yeah, I think Spider-Man came out in
No,
2000.
right. So about 15 years then, right? So, oh yeah, no, 15 to 20 years. I'd have to actually look it up. The only way you really understand the stakes of having Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the movie, and why it's like such a shock when they show up, is if you've watched 20 years of other movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is like, no, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. That doesn't work.
Hmm.
It's just me, I guess. Like, I go, if I sat my father down and watched that movie, he would go, okay, there's another Spider-Man. So, who cares? Right? Oh, there's a third Spider-Man? So, why are they making such a big deal of this? Like,
Mm.
the only way that there are any stakes is if you know that Tobey Maguire played Spider-Man in 2 other movies, or 3 other movies, and Andrew Garfield played Spider-Man in 2 other movies, and it's bringing together all of these different continuities into a single time frame, blah 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 blah, right? Um, and that's a fail for me. That is too much fan service, right? It's too much. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, that's just that's where I land at least on it.
Yeah. The challenge is you haven't seen it, so
Right, I haven't seen it, so I don't.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like the issues you're bringing up, I didn't really see that. The main thing you need to know, and you could glean this from the comic books, is you have to know who the villains are. You have to know who Doc Ock is, and they explain it. Like they give enough to rookie people that haven't seen the movies.
mm-hmm.
For example, my nephews who haven't seen who haven't seen all the previous movies. I was kind of worried, like, and we didn't go see it with. I didn't go see it with them. Sadly, we didn't get around to that. But if they were to see it, they'd be fine because there was enough. There's enough lines there to explain who these people are to each Spider-Man, I guess. To where it's not. I don't see that as that big of a deal. It's more or less, if you happen to see the movies, that makes it even more fun for you because you kind of have a history of watching these actors do their stuff. But you don't need to have an atlas or a street map or anything to understand what's going on. They've set it up pretty clearly during the first, you know,
Sure.
first act.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, like they
right.
explain that there's going to be alternate versions of blah 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 blah. And that's all you need. You get the context without having to see the actors and understand what's going on. It explained to me
Mm-hmm.
watching it. I didn't get that sense that it would be completely
Oh
confusing.
no, I'm certain. I mean, Marvel hires extremely talented people because they've got infinite money at their disposal,
Yeah.
and they hire very talented writers. And I'm sure the writers did a great job of anybody can come in and watch the movie at a superficial level and basically understand the narrative.
Yeah.
I'm certain of that, right?
Mhm.
But the A/B test that I use
Uh-huh.
is going all the way back to the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie.
Mhm.
Whether you're a fan who knows Spider-Man really well, or someone who is just going, hey, let's go see this Soup Spider-Man movie, whatever, what's that? I don't know. Let's go find out, right? You've got the ratio is 90% of the people watching the movie will get, you know, like, well, every person in the movie from beginning to end will get it fully. And there's like 10% of the content that only hardcore fans are going to get. Right? So everybody can appreciate the movie on the same level, but if you're a hardcore fan, there's like 10% a little extra goodies for you, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, jump all the way back to No Way Home. Both fans and neophytes alike can come in and understand the story completely, right? But to fully appreciate and get it, I suspect that only about, or I suspect that something between 60 and 70% of it is going to be lost on the neophyte viewers.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. On this one, I have to disagree. I mean,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, No Way. Was it No Way Home? The
No
first
Way
one?
Home is the new one.
I mean, it's subjective because No Way Home, the villain was Vulture. I knew who the Vulture was because I read the comic
Oh,
books.
no, that was Homecoming.
Homecoming. Okay,
Well,
Homecoming.
no, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with like using reference material from the actual comic books. Like that's
Mhm.
not, you have to introduce the characters at some level, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Mhm.
That doesn't even, introducing characters is actually more for the neophytes than it is for the hardcore
Mhm.
fans. And
Yeah.
that's okay, right? That's not the issue. And I don't have a problem with Doc Ock and Green Goblin from an alternate dimension being in the new one, right?
Mhm.
It's that they brought in the actors from the previous movies. And, you know, and honestly, the villains are less important than the Peter Parkers themselves. because villains are foils. They're what drives the protagonists to do something.
Yeah, but
Um,
but it isn't. It doesn't. What does it matter? I mean, if you're gonna source material from a comic book, why not source from an old movie? So what? Not a big
well,
deal.
it's not this that like they sourced it from a general brand property. It's that they sourced it from five very very specific films starring very specific actors. And while you can come in and enjoy it, and like I get the narrative of this at a base level, and oh okay, I get it. There's multiple dimensions and there's more Spider-Mans, yada yada yada. For the neophyte viewer, they are, in my opinion, missing as much as 70% of the actual content of the movie. Because they didn't watch those five previous movies, because they don't understand any of the memes and the popular culture self-references that the movie references and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't really. It doesn't have an issue. Like Vulture. Like again, we'll go back to the original, the newest iteration with Holland.
Mm-hmm.
They sourced Vulture
Mm-hmm.
to get Michael Keaton to play it.
Which in and of itself was a little bit of a gag. They specifically cast
Sure,
Keaton because of his history as
yeah,
Batman, and
sure,
because
sure.
he played Birdman in that Iñárritu
Yeah,
film.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And that was funny. That was funny too. But again, see, that's an inside joke.
It
But
is, but that's a 10%er. That's what I'm saying. Like, that one's fine. Like, you don't, that one, knowing that doesn't actually enhance your viewing experience. It's just a nice gag for
it is
people
nice
who watch
joke.
as many movies as I do.
Yeah, but again, you source Doc Ock. Who else are you going to cast for Doc Ock? Why not just use the guy that we used in the old movie? Not a big deal.
Yeah,
Um,
again, I'm less, the villains I care less about, even though, like,
but
the
if you go
real
later,
shock only if you've seen the previous five movies will like seeing Alfred Molina crawl up out of the thing, that's not going to have the same impact for a neophyte audience as it will for
yeah,
uh
I disagree again because the first thing you see is not Alfred Marina. You actually see this alien looking
mhm,
tentacle that comes into Ender's frame, and like you feel the sense of danger. So as a neophyte, you go, "Oh, this is really scary,"
mhm.
and the guy shows up. And if it's Alfred Molina, great for fans that watched the original, great. But it's still scary because it's a giant tentacle that's obviously some. And you get to, as a neophyte, you get to witness like, who is this guy? And you do look at it through Tom Holland's Spider-Man because like, who are you? Why are you doing this to me? And you do get to like, I don't think it's as bad as as I think your concerns. I think if you watched it, you wouldn't get any less. I mean, well, it's hard for you.
I
It's
mean,
hard
it's
for anyone.
impossible for me to know that because I've
Well,
seen
yeah, it's
all of those
impossible.
movies
Yeah,
and I have that history.
but for me, when I was watching it, I did the composition of the shots and the narrative they used to build up to getting Alfred Molina as the actor to show up was already scary enough. It was pretty intense. Um, so I don't. I think there's enough there. I think the storytelling was strong enough to where you could enjoy it as a neophyte and go, "Wow, who is this?" And then like the night, and then Green Goblin shows up on that bridge too, and all you see is the pretty much the pumpkin one. You don't even see Willem Dafoe as an actor until a little bit later. You just go, "What the heck is going on?" And that's the element that I think is there. That's plenty that's actually more important than having context. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I guess for me, when I see social media and I see my friends
Mhm.
and they talk about this movie, they don't talk about what an amazing plotline it was. They don't talk about how clever or interesting the narrative was, or the really interesting way that the villains work together, or how the multiverse is going to affect the larger narrative structure of the future movies. The
Mhm.
only thing that I've heard them talk about is cool. Tobey Maguire came back and reprised his role as Peter Parker. Cool. Andrew Garfield came back and reprised his role as Peter Parker. Cool. Alfred Molina came back and reprised his role as Doctor Octopus. Cool. Jamie Foxx came back and reprised his role as Electro. Cool. Willem Dafoe came back and
Okay.
that's literally the only thing that they talk about. They don't talk about anything else. They only talk about the fan servicey part. And a neophyte coming into it is going to go like, why does any of this matter?
But but why? Okay, for you and me, why is that even a concern for you to feel any kind of compassion for a neophyte? First of all, they'll get it anyway because the roles are already established in the movie, and they do their wrecking and they do the exact job that needs to be done. There's no need for us to be concerned about a neophyte. They'll get it. Like if I watch it with somebody that's new, like because pretty much what you're referring to are pretty much anybody that's been born in the last 15 years that haven't seen anything else.
Sure.
They're gonna get it. I think they'll enjoy it. I
Oh,
don't think
again, I'm certain that they'll understand the movie, but they
yeah.
won't get the movie because
Yeah,
there's a whole layer of content that they have no frame of reference for. So they'll
but,
understand the narrative, which I suspect is pretty bland,
yeah,
but they won't really get the movie. This was a movie. This was a movie that was all about fan service, like from first frame to last frame. I am certain of it.
again, I have to disagree because it's about Doctor Strange, Peter Parker making a dumb decision, and then him trying to undo it, and that's all it was, all the way through.
Yeah,
And then,
well, I mean, even from the previews, I knew I was going to hate the movie. The fact that Peter
yeah,
Parker has Doctor Strange cast this amazing spell, and then
mhm,
halfway through it, like, gets cold feet, and it screws the spell. I mean, it was just like, really? This is the inciting
no,
incident? Is
yeah,
Peter Parker a moron?
yeah,
Great. This is a good way
yeah.
to ingratiate your hero to me, movie.
And this is why you don't hear many people talking about the actual story because
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the best, but none of the Marvel like I can't tell you right off the bat any of the Marvel movies have a compelling story that I want to recite a narrative to because they're just based on comic books. Like it's not nothing's too serious in any of them. I mean, the biggest through line was the overall story of the Infinity Gauntlet. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
serious story, but you needed all these movies just to
Oh
to break.
yeah, no, you're preaching to the converted there.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I can't. It's
yeah,
infuriating to me that to really understand and in Infinity War is even worse than No Way Home, right? Like Infinity War would make zero sense if you hadn't spent 15 years
yeah.
watching these
But that
movies.
one, I'm with you on that. I'm on board with you on that one. You're not going to get what's going on unless you watch every single um, post credit scene to understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's it's a
So
spaghetti. It's a spaghetti plate that never ends with that one noodle. You don't know where you're going to go. But I again, and this is where I think it departs with No Way Home. Is I think the story pretty much sets it up, and it's nothing compelling or because you and I both have read so many comic books that
right.
no that special at this point. But again, I love seeing. For me, like I said, the thing I'm raving about is not because they're in the movie, but because I get to see Willem Dafoe act
Mm.
and do a Green Goblin that's better than any of the Marvel villains that I can think of to date. Actually, I can't think of any villain that's been better than Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina a close second. I mean, they're worth it for that reason alone, and they're not the reason they're not the main drivers of the movie. Well, Green Goblin kind of is in some ways, but it's worth again going back. It's not you don't go to watch some sort of high form of storytelling. You go for at least what you can see as far as art's concerned, and those two top of the game as far
Yeah.
as that for a commercial corporate movie with all the other stuff that we're talking about. Yeah, I get it, but despite all of that, they they rocked it. Yeah.
Well, we've been
Yeah.
going for 45 minutes,
Mhm.
and I think that that is a pretty good stopping point right there.
Mm.
Um, we will continue to agree to disagree, and if someone pays for my ticket, then I will gladly go see it.
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll send you over. I'll Venmo you a
Yeah,
ticket.
um,
And, for a
but
new present.
but yeah, I mean, like my general philosophy is someone says, "Hey, go see a movie with me," I will never say no. But
Yeah.
and I had a friend who's like, "Hey, go see this with me," and I'm like, "Great!" And then Christmas happened, and so we all kind of scattered for the holiday season, and now the dust is settling, of course, and so maybe we'll regroup and go see it. But yeah, I just as a general rule, I won't ever go see a Marvel or DC superhero movie on my own anymore, and I love going to the theater by myself and watching movies by myself, but
See,
not those kinds of movies.
I think you have a post Christmas present coming your way then.
I'll specifically go see No Way
It's
Home.
worth the investment just so we could talk about it more and see if you really feel the same way after.
If my opinion changes at all. Yeah. Okay.
I don't
Okay.
excuse me. I don't think it will, but it's still gonna be fun to at least talk to you about some
Yeah.
of this might be considered artistry in the movie, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, okay. If I have a Christmas present coming my way, I will not betray that trust, and I will go watch the movie. So,
As far
um,
as far as work, I got maybe one now.
no.
Getting much done because I was so I brain was so occupied with listening to what you were talking about as far as the movie and stuff. It's interesting to kind of go back and forth. But I did get this mouth pack done right here, which is
Yeah.
like down.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right. Right.
her front face is pretty much done, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll do more stuff next week
Cool.
for sure.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for the very comic book movie centered rant. And I feel like all of our tens of viewers will be split evenly in terms of agreeing with me versus agreeing with you. Actually, our audience would almost certainly agree with you. I am considered a heretic amongst most of my friends for saying that. Yeah, like I am absolutely an outsider in saying that I think the Marvel comic book movies are total trash.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I like I said, I think it's just it's nuanced because I mean, like I said, with Infinity Gauntlet or whatever they call it, War or whatever, I'm with you on a lot of that stuff. I mean, but again, we can hash that out later.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we should probably go and let people move on with their lives. Um, but all right, well, thanks for chatting with us, everybody. You can always get in contact with us at calamityjane.rocks. It'll take you to our Patreon site. Please consider subscribing for us for a small fee and helping us make this cartoon. You can find us on Facebook or YouTube, which presumably you're watching this on right now. Just search for Calamity Jane Adventure Hour. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Stay safe out there, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.
New Year, bye.
And we're clear.